Hello, my name is Maria O'Rourke. I am the Food Fanatic Chef at US Foods, and we're coming to you today from our test kitchen here in Flowood, Mississippi. Today we're going to be talking about some of the most commonly used classical knife cuts. Before we start talking about the cuts themselves though, I want to talk a little bit about how to use your knife properly and how to cut safely. I'm going to be using this nice big wooden cutting board today that I'm fortunate enough to have in my kitchen. But if you're using the typical plastic or wooden cutting board in a kitchen, you want to note that if you put it on a countertop, it can sometimes move around and be unsafe. The best way to secure a cutting board quickly and easily is to take a kitchen towel or a paper towel, moistened with water, put it under your cutting board, place the cutting board on top. That'll give you a nice solid surface so that you're able to chop, dice, and otherwise use your knife without your cutting surface moving around and being unsafe. The next thing is the appropriate way to hold a knife. So when you're chopping with a knife, you want to make sure that you're gripping the knife properly. The way that I grip a knife is called a pinch grip, which uses your index finger and your thumb to pinch right at the base of the blade of the knife. You're going to then wrap your hand around the knife and it's going to look like this. What you want to avoid doing is putting a finger on the top of the knife or holding the knife like this, because either of those grips are going to give you ineffective control over the knife and actually could result in cuts or be dangerous to you. Now that we know how to hold our knife, we're going to look at some of the knife cuts that we're going to be discussing today. The first one is the dice. We have a large dice, which is approximately an inch square, a medium dice, which is a ½ inch square, a small dice, which is a ¼ inch square, and something called a brunoise, which is an 8-inch dice. If a recipe specifies diced without any other qualifier like small, medium, large, your typical dice is going to be a medium dice. How do we get a dice? So what you want to do to start off getting a dice is to square off your vegetable, and I've done this here. We have a carrot, and what you want to do is square off the sides so that you start with a square. That'll make it much easier to dice. Now don't throw those scraps away. Those scraps can be used for stock or other things in the kitchen. Then what you're going to do is you're going to cut through your vegetable, and we're not going to use a sawing motion, we're going to use a rocking motion until we have these long pieces, and then we're going to make another cut, which actually is a julienne or a bâtonnet, depending on the size. Then we're going to turn the stack this way, and we're just going to evenly slice down like this. And you'll see when you're slicing that my other hand is in sort of a claw. We don't want to get our fingers in the way, and we want to use this claw as a guide. So when you're dicing or slicing, you would be kind of up against your knuckles, but you don't want to do this because we don't want to get our fingertips in our beautiful dice of vegetables. So as you cut through, you're going to have a result of these nice square pieces, and they're going to be nice and uniform. The reason why we do these knife cuts is so that your vegetables can cook evenly, and they can also appear uniform in your finished dish so that the eye appeal is increased. You would use a large dice for something like a soup or a vegetable that's going to be used as a side dish. You would use a medium dice as an ingredient, in soups and things like that, and a small dice the same. The small dice, if you're making a mirepoix, you would want to use a small dice. A brunoise is typically used as a garnish. It's often not cooked because it's so small it would disintegrate, but is sprinkled raw on, for example, a consommé, or used as another type of garnish. These two long cuts that are here are called a bâtonnet and a julienne. A bâtonnet is French for baton, which is kind of what it looks like. It's a long 1 by 1, and if you cut this down, if you cut a bâtonnet down, you're going to get a large dice, okay? Just like that. Bâtonnets are commonly used in side dishes and things of that nature. Julienne is actually just a smaller version of a bâtonnet, and it is a 1/8 by 1/8 by 2-inch long cut. Those are used commonly in Asian cooking, or can be used as a garnish on top of a salad or in a stir fry or something like that. If you cut these down, you would get a brunoise. Other common knife cuts are the rondelle, which are used in cutting round vegetables, for example, a carrot. And what it is just a classic coin. If you just cut through this, you get these nice round cuts, which are called a rondelle. And then finally the chiffonade. The chiffonade is used for leafy greens and herbs, and is accomplished by taking your herb or your leafy green and sort of stacking it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but stacking it in a stack and then rolling it up, kind of like a cigar. Once you got that tight roll like this, you're just going to slice through, and you're going to use a rocking motion to make sure that you slice all the way through. And you're going to cut it thinly. And at the end, you're going to have these really, really nice ribbons, as you can see. And this is commonly, again, used for leafy greens or herbs like this mint that I have, or basil. If you can master these common knife cuts, you can really do a lot in the kitchen, from mise en place, or when you're creating your mise en place, to be used in hot dishes, cold dishes, or anything else that you would really need vegetables for in the kitchen.